Now, there are passages in the preachings of the Buddha where it clearly has that sociological sense. The Buddha himself has said that his teaching is called Arya because it is the teaching of the upper class. He himself explicitly says it's the upper class that has these values. It comes with being an elite character. So you see, some people say, oh, you see, the Buddha was the natural religion of the untouchables, of the poor people, and so on. Sorry, that's not the case. I mean, we also know the caste background of the people recruited by the Buddha into his order. Most of them were upper caste. And so he himself, of course, was on all hands an upper class character. He was the son of the president for life of the Shakya Republic. So he was not a prince in the feudal sense. He was not automatically fated to become the successor to the throne or so. Because it was a republic, it was not a monarchy. Nevertheless, as the son of the president for life, he was, of course, in a very good position to become the successor. From 20 or so onwards, he was a member of the Senate of the ruling assembly, and apparently he was also very talented, a good speaker and so on. He was a natural leader, so he would have become the president for life in his turn had he chosen to do that. But so he felt a vocation to become a sadhu. Why? Because he was impressed by the sight of a sadhu. He didn't invent this. I mean, nowadays there is this whole school, not just among Ambedkarites, amateurs, and that is putting it nicely. No, you see, among Western academics and their imitators in India, you have this whole notion that everything good in Hinduism comes from the Buddha. The Buddha invented everything. Yoga comes from the Buddha. Now, this is so much nonsense. Of course, you have the Upanishads and other places, passages in the Vedas, where you see plenty of yoga centuries before the Buddha. Then when you read the Buddha's own life, you see he studied with Shankya teachers, this Arada Kalama, this Ramaputra, and so he learned from them and he integrated their teachings in his own curriculum. And when he had reached nirvana, the first thing he did was to appeal to them, you see, to go trace them in order to tell them about his new discovery. It turned out they had died already. So then the next thing he did was to go tell these 5 monks that he had practiced with. And so that's when Buddhism started. He finds them in Sarnath, and so that's where the Buddhist teachings begin. After, according to the story, Brahma appearing to him and telling him, don't keep this nirvana for yourself, go teach it. So that's where Buddhism starts. Anyway, but so that's Arya Dharma. Arya Dharma is the noble teaching, but noble in the sense of carrying Vedic civilization. So what he seems to say is that his teaching is Vedic. Now, probably this is in the sense that you often see in religious history, namely going back to the sources. So that's not a modern phenomenon, fundamentalism going back to the foundations. That has always existed. That's what they do time and again. And so that apparently is the case with the Buddha. He goes back to the sources because the Vedic teaching has, become decadent, has lapsed into empty ritualism, and I'm not against ritual. Ritualism is not automatically empty, but it risks after a while becoming an automatism and indeed, becoming empty. And so, you see, he infuses it with life, with meaning, because he rediscovers the Vedas. And he praises the Vedic Rishis. He names them by name, you see, Bharadwaj and Vishwamitra and Vasishtha and so on. He quotes from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, from the Rishi Yajnavalkya, and so on. So, I mean, he is entirely in the footsteps of what he calls the earlier Buddhas, the earlier awakened ones. Mm-hmm. So, the Buddha does not claim to bring anything new, just like Jesus didn't claim to bring anything new, okay? You can trace yoga a lot farther back. But nevertheless, you could say that, the Buddha gets serious about it. Until then, yoga is a lot associated with miracle working, with strange things. And so he makes it something very rational, which is good. Now, I would give a lot of other people credit for many of his ideas, but I mean, I'm not against people following the Buddha. After all, if they walk in his footsteps, they can't help walking in the footsteps of many earlier people whom the Buddha acknowledged as preceding him and teaching essentially the same thing.